Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. This is Rem Jackson, the CEO of Top Practices. And today with me, I have Tina DelBuono and Dr. Peter Wishnie on the line with me. And what we're going to do is talk about the new Top Practices Practice Management Institute. We're going to tell you what it is, and we're going to tell you why we developed it, and explain really how this is a program, a revolutionary new program that has been designed to support and help your staff simply operate your practice just like they're the A-team with minimal involvement on your part. So first of all, welcome everybody to today's presentation. We've entitled it, Ending Your Ceaseless Practice Management Headaches. And the reason that we've done that is because we know that when we speak to medical practices, doctors and their staff all over the country, it does seem like it's just a never-ending, ceaseless list of headaches in managing your practice. And the good news is it does not have to be that way. And so that's why we named this title, we gave this talk this title. Now, what do we mean by ending your headaches? Frankly, there is a reason that managing your practice is so doggone difficult. Number one, you weren't trained in business management or any of those kinds of programs at all. So that's not your fault. Number two, this was not the business that you thought you were getting into whenever you became a doctor. It turns out that is the business you're in, but it is often a surprise that you're actually running a business. And it has become and will stay a paperwork and administrative never-ending tsunami. That's the reality of the circumstance in which everyone finds themselves, but it doesn't have to break your back because there's answers. That's what we're going to share with you today. There is an answer that will do the following. It'll give you back your nights and your weekends. It's going to end the majority of your staffing problems. By the way, we can't promise you it will end all of your staffing problems. Staffs are composed of people, and people change over time. They have issues, but we will end the vast majority of them. And then we will teach you and your staff how to deal with those issues when they come up. We'll get your practice paperwork and workflow back into a well-managed pattern. We'll increase positive patient outcomes. It's wonderful that this all correlates that way. And finally, we'll prepare you and your staff to grow larger and more profitable if that is a goal that you have. And so I just want to introduce my colleagues today who are on the line. First, I'd like to introduce Tina DelBuono. Tina is a practicing practice administrator right now for her practice in Santa Rosa, California. She is a coach to medical practices nationwide, and she is the director of the Top Practices Practice Management Institute, which is, of course, the program we're talking about today. And she's a coach, a mentor, a trainer to your practice and your staff. So first of all, Tina, welcome aboard. It's great to have you with me today.
Thank you, Rem.
Now, secondly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Peter Wishnie. Dr. Wishnie is a practicing podiatrist in Piscataway, New Jersey. He's a coach to medical practices nationwide, and he's the director of the Top Practices Practice Management Institute, and he is your coach and mentor, the mentor and coach to the doctors in the practice management program. So Peter, welcome aboard. It's great to have you with us today as well.
Thank you, Rem.
Okay, and of course then there's me. I'm the CEO of Top Practices. I founded Top Practices in 2007 and have been working with practices all over North America and, in fact, Australia ever since that time as a marketing and business development coach to doctors and their staff nationwide. I realized years ago that if the things that we're doing are going to fill up your reception room bigger and bigger, more full of the kind of patients you want, it can actually increase your concerns with your practice management. And so, a number of years ago, began working with Dr. Wishnie to really teach and help our doctors And now, with the introduction of the Practice Management Institute, we've totally revolutionized the way that we can do this. And with the addition of Tina DelBuono, who is the coach and mentor to your staff, we've got a solution that we're very excited about. So welcome aboard to everybody. And let's just kind of jump into this. So here's what we know. First thing we know is that many, in fact, most practices are struggling. If you are, you don't have to feel bad about that because you're pretty much the norm of what people are dealing with right now. And here's the second thing that we know. Nothing is going to change by itself. And that is, unfortunately, the primary pattern, the primary strategy that most doctors have is, well, I hope it'll just get better. It will not get better. In fact, it's going to get worse because it is getting more complex. What we know is that your staff needs help. And there are a lot of reasons why that help can't come from you alone. We've talked about that before. You're really not prepared. And if you're like most of the doctors I talk to, they say, you know, Rem, I'm so busy now just trying to keep my head above water with what I've got to do. I don't know how to take the time to help my staff do it. The time to act is now. That is what we know. It's time to act now. And so that is why the Top Practices Practice Management Institute. That's why we created it. So here's really the reasons that it exists. Folks, the natural state of your practice is not chaos. Regardless of the evidence to the contrary, you might think, you know, really? But in fact, it is not chaos. It should be a well-run, well-organized practice. And there are reasons that just owning and operating a medical practice can actually be backbreaking to most people. And that's what we're going to talk about now. And this is where I'd like to ask Peter and Tina to jump in and just talk about what we see now as the 12 main problems that you've got. And this is going to be our way of showing you the core of the curriculum that we're going to be working with your staff and with you. So Tina, let's take number one. The biggest problems that we've got here is practice enhancement. Can you speak to that just a little bit and explain what we mean by that and how we're going to address it?
Okay, Rem. Most practices know that they need some sort of change, that they need to enhance themselves, but they really don't know what exactly they'd like to do or what can be done, and just those thoughts can be overwhelming. So in this module, what we're going to do is be able to give the office staff the tools and the guidelines to think through the process of what things they can do to enhance the practice to make it a better place for them, a better place for their physician, and ultimately a better place for their patients. And then to be able to take those tiny steps with the tools we're going to give them and moving ahead to make those enhancements happen.
Well, I think that's great because, in reality, Tina, most doctors and their staff often will say, look, this is so complicated, I don't even know where to start. And that's really what this is. Where do I start? And let's build the plan. So that's the first thing that we'll address because that's your first problem. Where do I start? Now, the second thing that everybody struggles with is creating a great work team. So Tina, can you kind of fill us in on this one?
Absolutely. You have to have a great work team in order to be able to really accomplish anything in your practice. In this module, we're going to talk about the people who are actually in the practice. Are they in the right positions that they should be in? Are they getting the proper training that they should get? Do they have job descriptions? For most practices, that's going to be no. And so, again, we are going to be able to go through each one of the steps of creating job descriptions, making sure that there's training protocols for each position so that the staff know exactly what it is they're supposed to do, because when they do know, then they feel good. They feel good about, I understand what I'm supposed to do in my part to play in this practice, and then they can excel at that.
I think that's great. The fact of the matter is there's not a single doctor on listening now who can do this by themselves. You've got to have a great team around you. Without the team, you can't get there. And your team needs a coach. And that's exactly what we'll do is we'll coach your team. Now, let's stay with the team for a minute because, the third area that is really not addressed by most practices but is essential is staff training. And Peter, could you just, kind of discuss that for just a moment, because this is an area we're going to spend time on.
Yeah, absolutely. Staff training is the most important thing you can do to have a successful practice. We are going to help you with protocols and systems for your staff so they can be trained properly. As a doctor, I can tell you, I do not have the time to train my staff, but I have resources and people around me that can do that. I will help the doctors and tell them what's going on with their staff during the day and what we are teaching them and what Tina's teaching them. But staff training is basically huge for a successful practice and to have a smooth running machine on a daily basis, which will relieve your stress as a doctor and, as important as the staff's stress.
Exactly. And, it's funny because the number one tool to keep everybody on track and on focus and not have them slide back into their old habits is training. But most people don't know how to do it. And we're going to address that in detail and teach your staff how to really, really use this kind of a program in the office and move forward. So, Peter, again, the staff often has a lot of trouble with efficiencies. And how do they do things? So address this for us a little bit, if you would, please.
Now, efficiencies are taken care of by knowing your systems and protocols. Having everything written down and having staff being trained on them is the one thing that will separate you from the office down the street. And so we will help your staff becoming very efficient by using these protocols and systems.
Yeah, there really is no other way to conquer the problems that people have right now. You've got to have really efficient staff following written established protocols. We're going to teach you how. Great. Peter, patient service.
Right.
This is, everybody knows you should do it, but it so often seems so elusive.
Yes, and if you have a well-trained staff who's very efficient, will now enable them to provide the best patient customer service possible. You just don't want to give good service, you want to give exemplary service, a wow service. And that is, again, going to set you apart from the guys down the street and, again, make your days a lot easier and a lot less stressful.
The next area that everybody struggles with is actually utilizing your time right. In fact, if I could tell you the number one thing that people tell me, they say is, I just wish I had the time. I wish I had the time to do these things you're talking about. I wish I had the time to get my notes done on time. I wish I had time. And the answer is they actually do have time. They're just not doing it right, Peter. So how are we going to help them there?
So lots of different ways. So time means a lot of things. One, patient-wise, they need to be brought in the room on time. Waiting is the biggest reason why these patients don't come back again. Then, so you need to be efficient. So learning systems that will make your office very efficient and flow really smoothly during the day, where you will have time actually while you're with the patient to do your notes and to get out on time. That's the key. That's the biggest thing Doc's telling me. I'm done at 5 o'clock, but I'm here to 7 o'clock doing notes or taking my computer home. You will learn how not to take your computer home to finish your notes through these systems.
I think that alone is worth getting your time. That's what we mean by getting your nights and your weekends back. Okay, Tina, charting and billing. Let's face it. This is probably the Waterloo for most practices, and we're going to help, right?
Absolutely, especially with ICD-10 right around the corner. This is a perfect time to be addressing, these issues because our charting is so important, and it's going to change in having more detail. In this module, we'll be able to talk to the assistants, give them the information that they need to know what needs to be in that chart note, to know how to ask the right questions of the patients to get the information that is mandatory to have in our chart notes. And ultimately, by being able to chart correctly and to help their physician, it's going to affect the billing. They're going to be able to learn what it is that they need to be able to make up an evaluation and management code, to make sure that they have enough information in the plan to support this, and that they know where to go to get the correct billing advice, so that they know they're doing it correctly, and then how to handle it if they don't have their answers, or they don't know what the correct answer is, because this is your lifeline in your practice, is getting this correct so that then you can have your revenue to be coming back in. And
That's for sure.
A lot of times the staff does not realize how important this is.
Well, this ultimately leads to your cash flow, and it is like oxygen for the practice. You know, you can live for quite a while without food. You can live for a few days without water, but you can live only a few moments without oxygen. And this is the oxygen to the practice. And so we're going to help your staff become exemplary at this. And that leads us into the eighth issue and problem that we're going to address, which is accounts receivables and collections.
Right. For some reason, the accounts receivable is usually one of the last things that's worked in a practice, even if they have someone who is designated to work it. And also, it is something that's not shared throughout the practice, that all staff members understand where are we at with our numbers and why is that important. So we're going to be able to teach all staff members the key elements of what makes up your accounts receivables, and better yet, we're going to teach them how important it is to collect up front, how they can set up great financial protocols and contracts with their patients so that the practice doesn't have to wait to get its reimbursement when there is those things in their insurance contracts that say we can have our money before the patient gets the service.
Well, I think that's great, and nothing's more important than that. And so now, Peter, management personnel, knowing what your practice really needs. Peter, what do we mean by this problem that folks are having that we're going to fix?
So knowing what your practice needs is the one thing that you need to be working on every week, and that one thing can change. But the one thing, if you focus on that one thing, it will affect the rest of your practice that week, and will make your days and week go nice and smooth. So managing your staff with you or with your office manager leader, that will then let them know and let them focus on. So maybe recalling patients. You need more patients. How do you get more patients? Or how do you get more money coming in? Or how do you have better systems that make you more efficient, that you're not running around like crazy in the back room? What are the things you need that week, and how do we get the staff to do these things?
Absolutely. So, in other words, we're going to teach your staff how to manage your practice. So, and that leads us to your team leader or your manager. And Tina, we're going to focus on this role and really help develop those people, right?
Correct. Every practice is different, and a lot of the practices that I work with don't actually have a specific office manager. They have more of a team leader or several team leaders. And we're going to talk about in this module, what does your practice need? What type of management staff or team leader do they need? And then how can you or each person there have the skills to be able to do this? What does it take? And we'll be discussing the skills. They'll be getting the tools on how to be a better team leader or manager, how to communicate well with the people that they work with, which ultimately leads to the success of the practice. So this is going to be a great module for every single person in the practice, because I truly think that they all can be leaders in their practice.
That's true, because you can teach any person who has the right mindset. You can't teach anybody, but you can teach the right person how to be extremely good at this essential job, which leads to the next problem that people have that we're going to help really solve, which is building that team.
Right. So often, Rem, people think that, I've got a staff. and everybody should just do what they're supposed to do. Well, having staff and saying everyone should do what they're supposed to do is one thing, but having a team, a cohesive team that sees the ultimate vision of the practice, which the physician needs to share with them, and then working together to accomplish what it takes every single day to make that happen. So in this module, we're going to be giving them tools and information on how to create their team and see the different team members' strengths and weaknesses and where each person can step in and kind of weave that team together to be a really strong net for that practice and moving it forward.
And this is an essential skill that every practice has to have that almost none do, because, again, no one's ever taught you how to put together and keep morale up, keep people really wanting to do what they do. It's not easy, but we're going to show you how in the Top Practices Management Institute. And finally, then there's just the whole thing about managing your stuff. And Tina, you talk about that for just a moment real quick, if you don't mind.
Yes. Every person in the practice needs to understand and know what it takes to run that practice. What does it cost to open your front door and turn on your lights? And to realize the importance of every pen that is used, every ream of paper that is used, all of the supplies, and to be able to work together on how they can have successful supply management, looking realistically at what the practice uses and doesn't use by taking inventory, and then being able to learn how to shop for great prices for the practice in order to keep that figure one that the practice actually can afford or save the practice money. A lot of times people just pick up the phone and they call, the first vendor that's on their list and not realizing that they could get maybe 20 or 30% off on those items by shifting to where they're purchasing. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to give them the knowledge of where they can go to shop for supplies, and also ultimately every single person in the practice becomes and needs to become more aware of what is being spent and what is being wasted.
Yeah, because there's no point in us working very hard to fill the bucket up just to have a bunch of holes where it's leaking out the bottom, and no one even knows. So this is just really the beginning of that. We're going to show you how to really run your practice like a well-oiled machine. And folks, all that we've just discussed is really just the tip of the iceberg on what we're going to be dealing with at the Practice Management Institute. But there's even more involved. So let me talk about the Institute now and how it works, how it can help you. So first of all, you need help. You need the business and management systems that are going to help your staff truly manage your practice like an A-team. But in order to do that, you need highly skilled mentors to guide your team every week of the year. And those mentors at the Practice Management Institute are Dr. Wishnie and Tina DelBuono. They're there for you and your staff. And as I said, virtually every week of the year. You need, in Dr. Wishnie, a colleague who is expert at practice management to advise you when you've got questions. You need in Tina an actual practice manager who knows everything that's going on today, who is available to train your staff, support them, answer their questions as they grow into a top staff. You need a structured training curriculum that guides and teaches your staff how to solve those problems. And you need answers to be able to survive what is really being thrown at you, literally being thrown at you right now by all of the players in the system. And ultimately, you need your time back and you need your life back. And that's our goal at the Practice Management Institute. Now, until now, access to this kind of help and expertise at this level has simply not been available. The only real solution that you've had is to bring an expert in for a day or two. That's at a high cost. And I do think you get gain from that. There's some very good people out there working. But the problem is it doesn't generally stick. It really doesn't usually last. You should get a couple things out of that, but you don't grow and build into a really, really well-run practice. So what we've done is we've designed this program to solve your practice management headaches really once and for all. And here's the premise. This is simple to use for you and your staff. It is not overwhelming. That's the best part about this. The way we've designed this is that it's easy to use, easy to access, and very powerful in its impact. So what we've done is put this together so that it is helpful and supportive and not just another obligation. You should not look at this and think, oh, wow, another thing we've got to do. Because by getting engaged with us in our simple, not overwhelming way, we will begin to develop so much more capacity for your staff and you that you'll get back all that time and the investment very, very, very quickly. We've designed this to require minimal involvement from you, the doctor. We realized this was essential, is that you don't have to be directly involved very much. Tina DelBuono is going to be working with your staff. Now, Peter Wishnie is going to be working with you, and we've designed this so you have one session per month with Peter. There's online inside our password-protected library. There's information you can access that Dr. Wishnie has prepared for you. But each month you'll be able to have access to Peter. He's going to be sharing with you what's going on with your staff and Tina and how you can support them and basically not accidentally undermine the gain that's being made with the other program with Tina. He's going to help you know what's going on so you can support your staff. And it's also a chance for you to talk to a colleague who's one of the best practice managers in the country on any topic that you want to. You'll have direct access to him once a month. And almost every week of the year, your staff is going to be able to have access to Tina DelBuono, learn from her, from a structured curriculum that she'll be teaching them, but she'll also be having open office hours where they'll be able to jump up and ask her really any question that they've got, no matter how small or detailed. So she'll be leading them through these monthly trainings to teach them how to solve and eliminate the practice management nightmares that you have. As I said, she'll be having office hours. I said 3 times a month. I think it's actually 5 times a month. And these are the time for your staff to bring their problems to Tina for coaching and answers. And as I said, nothing at all will be off the table. And by the way, at popular request, both Tina and Dr. Wishnie will be training on East Coast and West Coast schedules to accommodate the busy schedules of you and your staff. So you will have opportunities East Coast time and exactly the same number of opportunities West Coast time to be able to make sure it fits into whatever time zone you're in. And, of course, if you're on the East Coast and you want to participate on the West Coast times, you're welcome to do that as well, and vice versa. Now, the curriculum is designed to solve your headaches in the 12 areas we've already discussed, but much, much more. And frankly, there's no other program that it's been designed with your problems, your schedule, your reality at its core in the same way. So here's what you can do. You can go to www.toppractices.com. Just click on the Practice Management tab to learn even more. There's a lot of detailed information in there about how the program works or whatever. You can email us at answers@toppractices.com with any questions that you have. You can call 717-725-2679, and our representative will be available to take your calls, answer any questions. If you need to speak to either Tina or Dr. Wishnie because you've got some specific questions, if there is a need for that, we'll set it up. They're happy to do it. So now here's the financials. You can join for less than the value of 1 new patient a month. The Top Practices Management Institute costs $399 a month. If you're already a Top Practices marketing member, it costs even less, $149 a month, to add it to your current account now. But if you're not in Top Practices, you can join for $399 a month. There are no contracts, no requirements. We don't put you in handcuffs, anything. You can leave at any time. We only want you, and all the things that we do in Top Practices is to stay and to get the value if it's helping you. And by the way, this $3.99 rate is an introductory rate, and it will increase soon. So if you're interested, please join as quickly as possible. Again, just go to www.toppractices.com to find out more, and you can email answers@toppractices.com if you have any questions. I want to thank Tina and Peter for being with me on this call today. I want to thank you for taking the time to find out more about it. If you think that there is a way for us to help you, then please reach out, join the Institute. You can join at any time, wherever we are in the curriculum. We will be there to help you with everything. Thanks very much, and as always, just have a great day.